Well, hello. We're so glad that you could join us. And once again, we want you to know how sad we are that we can't be in person this year, but we care about your health and your safety. And so we decided that the best thing to do was be virtual, but we're glad that you're able to be a part of the People First Conference and excited to share some information with you.
And this is one of the sessions that we're doing. One of the classes that you voted on was about writing lawmakers. And that's one of the things that we like people to do all the time, because there's always going to be some type of legislation or issue that we want. And so I wanted to start out at this. Would you like to be a senator or a state senator or a state representative?
Well, I think senators make more money, is my impression.
Okay.
So I'm going to go for senator.
Well, I would like to pretend like I'm writing a letter to Senator Ford, and I'm going to pick just because I know this is a popular topic. Transportation has been an issue that and I do recommend, I know we've said before, but I do recommend that you all go look at the report that Melissa did when she did her fellowship on transportation. We had a lot of great people, and many of you participated in her survey. And so an example of how not to write a letter would be, Dear Senator Ford, I want you to fix the transportation issue in West Virginia. I can't get to work, and that makes me very sad, and I wish I could, but the bus doesn't come by my house. Sincerely, Doug Hess, Parkersburg, West Virginia. Okay, now that was nice and pleasant.
It was, but maybe some more detail could be helpful. Maybe a specific story about how it impacts you. What do you think?
Well, I said I couldn't get to work. What else do you think I might have left out? Like where I live? What road I live on? Do I live in a city? Do I live out in the county? Do I live in a county like Wirt County or many other counties that have no public transportation? Details like that are something that are very important. And when you say fix it, I didn't specify what I was. So based on what what I said and what I would have typed, what did I want?
Well, I mean, it was clear that you wanted a bus to get you to work, but there were a lot of details that would be more helpful. For one thing, legislators like specific stories because they can share that information, and more people are moved when they know that perhaps there's a person who could support themselves by going to work, but there is no transportation in their area and there is a huge need for transportation. Maybe you're not the only person impacted, or maybe it's an easier fix. Maybe you could talk to a local legislator or somebody in the transportation department that could simply reroute a bus. So there are lots of different things that if you provided more details, that would give the legislator more information to go on to perhaps help fix the problem.
But I was very passionate.
Passionate is good. And it's important, but details help.
Okay, so let's try it this way. We're going to give more examples in a much longer detail, but I just wanted to give an example of how many times we all think about like fix that pothole, pave my street. Someone said, get rid of COVID. Well, we'd all love that to happen, but there's lots of steps in that. So what if instead I said, Dear Senator Ford, my name is Doug Hess, and I live outside of Parkersburg in an area that currently does not have bus service, although I'm near a major highway, and I use a wheelchair, just in my example, and I would like to, and I have contacted the local transit authority that runs our buses, and they said that they need some additional funding to help expand their route. And there are also 10 other people in the Lubeck area that would benefit from this bus. And we would only need it would only be helpful. I go to work at 8:30 in the morning and would come home at 4:30 in the afternoon. So they wouldn't have to, we're not asking for it to run every single day. And I know they do that for one of the local universities. They run a bus in the morning and a bus in the afternoon that benefits many people.
So much better. It gives much more detail, and it also gives what the solution to the problem would be. And so very often, although there's not an unlimited money, a small financial fix is something that would be in control of a legislator, that they could make that happen and that they could solve that problem. But the less homework that the legislators have to do to get to the solution, the better. So that was much better.
When we've spoken to some of our legislators, we're talking 5,000 bills sometimes come up. Now, not that many ever get to committee or introduced to the floor or to any place. But when you're talking thousands of bills,
it's hard to get through all that.
Hard to get through all that. So it also helps if you know that there's an issue that many other people are passionate about. So even though 10 people is going to carry more weight than just myself. And I also mentioned that I'd already talked to my local transit authority. So see, there's an order. I didn't just write to the senator and say, fix this. I said, I've spoken to my local transportation authority, and it is a funding issue, because lots of funding comes from the federal government. As Melissa, when she did her talk, found there's a grant called 5310 that allows the organizations to purchase buses and do certain things, but most of the money can come also from a local tax levy. I know here in Wood County, where we're located, there's a tax levy that they do every 2 or 3 years that they have to continue, because somebody has to pay for that bus.
Right. So. And people in this community, thankfully, are supportive of that. They recognize the importance of people being able to get around town. It not only benefits people going to work, but it also benefits store owners and shopkeepers and things like that, to have people have access to our community. So funding is important, and there are different ways that can be achieved.
Now, many of you may think, okay, I want to do that, but maybe I'm not sure how to find my legislator. I mean, we'll just say, well, go to the website and do that. So one place I know that you can start, because you can go to the West Virginia legislature website, but then you have to look through a map. So if you do call that up, that is something that's there, but it can be a little more complex. So let me share the screen and show you the legislature's website. So this is what you get when you go to wvlegislature.gov. And if you want to look across the top, it has the Senate and it has all the House members, but you'd have to figure out where you are. So, okay, let's see, we're in Parkersburg, or let's pick a different way. Let's say you're in Clarksburg. So let's look at the district map. So you have to click on the district map. And then you have to know your geography. So then you'd have to go all the way down through the list and see where everything is to be able to find your legislator. So let me scroll down here. So that's the Northern Panhandle. And that's Brooke in Ohio. So that takes a long time. So there's a better way to do that.
Exactly.
If you go to the ARC of the United States website, the arc.org, you can click on Get Involved. And one of those things over here is to take action, which is what we want you to do. All that we talk about and teach on is great. If you don't take any action, it isn't going to go anywhere.
And just to let everyone know, during the August recess, the ARC of the United States sent information to each of the ARC organizations for us to send on to our legislators. And every time we receive that information, we do contact our legislators and let them know what's important to people in West Virginia.
Now, we as an organization, the ARC National Organization, they have, as Melissa and Morgan had on their show, they have someone who can actually go and lobby. And what lobbying is, you can actually go in, and if I were a lobbyist, I could say, I want you, Senator Ford, to vote on House Bill 685 or Senate Bill 23B. As the ARC, as People First, we are not lobbyists. So what we encourage people to do is to, now you as an individual can say that, but we as an organization will call and say, this bill is very important to us because, and then we would advocate. And that way the senator the House of Representatives member, then they can take the next step and their staff can see, oh, will you support this legislation? And they'll pass that on, as opposed to directly coming along and saying, vote for this. So when you go take action, I'm going to scroll down here. First of all, you can sign up for their updates so you can get direct updates on the legislation. And over here on the left, you can tell Congress. So if you're like, I don't like to write letters, I have a difficult time telling letters. So one of the things that we really would like to do is have people invest. And every Wednesday at the Arc of the United States, at the ARC that we're a chapter of, is We Act Wednesday. So on We Act Wednesday, they want you to take action. So as an example, let's take some action. So we don't have to write the letter. They would like us to put our information in, and it gives you, now notice what they're doing, just like we're talking about. They're not just saying, pass this bill. They're explaining what it is in simple terms. Better Care, Better Jobs Act. And you put in your title, your name, your address, and your email. And as you scroll down the list here, this tells what it will do. And so you can do that by clicking, and they will help do that. But so they want you to urge your members of Congress to do this. That's just one of the ways people can take action.
Exactly. And when you take action in that way, you're still able to add your story in there. You can type in that box that's already populated with the information. But if you have a specific story about that issue, just like you did earlier, Doug, where you said how you were impacted, what you had done, how many other people were impacted, and what the solution is, you can add that in there. And once again, legislators like to have specific stories about people that they serve in their community, because that helps them get information passed. And it, in their defense, if they don't know about a problem and how it impacts someone, then they really can't take action.
Well, yeah, because if you just said, people in my district believe that this is a good idea. Why is it a good idea? They want to know those extra details. You might as well say, I went on vacation and we ate at a nice restaurant.
Not a lot of detail.
Not a lot of detail. They want to know. So here is the actual, I'm a member of the ARC and your constituent. Urge you to invest in people with disabilities. And again, this is written in a nice, friendly form. No one's yelling at anybody. It talks about without access to services, family members are often left out of the economy because they are providing care and people don't have the services they need to work in their communities. And so you can scroll right down there and see exactly what you're writing.
And some of these are perfect places to insert your story, how you were impacted, your family's impacted.
So see, I can click right there and say, as an example, so in my family, this is especially important.
I'm impressed. Good typing.
Because, whatever.
Right.
So you just put your story in, and then when you submit, it adds that personal touch. And that's just one of them. So there's different ones on here. There's several different ones. Now, you may, and that's just a general one. You may be wondering, well, how do I find my lawmakers?
Right.
So if you back up, you put in a zip code, 26101, happens to be Parkersburg, and click.
And the great thing is you only have to put it in there one time and it will send it to all of the legislators in your area.
So if I want to know who's currently in office, these are the ones. So it starts with the president, down to the vice president. It's got their phone number. I noticed the president's phone number is not on there. I guess you can call the vice president's office and talk to her staff, but I think the president's a little busy. So as you roll down there, depending on which, it should give you the entire list of everybody.
Senators,
and we'll roll down to, I'm not sure why it's not scrolling down Let's get that over just a little bit.
Well, I know when you go into the other section where it says share your story, it definitely takes you to
On
Senator.
this browser, I did this morning just to make sure, and it will let you scroll down and give you all the senators, clear down to the House of Delegates.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that you can look up another district. So this will allow you to do whichever one you want.
And we want you to remember too, that if you have any concerns or you have any difficulty finding this, you can always call the office. We encourage everyone to contact their legislators as much as possible. Like Doug pointed out, you could do it all year long, because during the season when the bills are already introduced, that's not the time to try to get legislation passed. You have to plant the seed for that long before the session starts.
Yes, in fact, and I would encourage everyone, because the schedule that you all have picked out is 9 to noon on Wednesday. Then we don't start until the afternoon on Thursday, and then Friday morning you've got plenty of time. Go watch some of those programs that Melissa and Morgan did, because they talk to some of these folks and talk to the staff and can give you the direct information from the people that know exactly how all of that works. And so they will.
And we have found over time that the legislators get back in touch with us and
Yes.
follow up. If we bring a concern or an issue to them, very often they will follow up with us. So we definitely encourage you to be a part of this and make your voice heard.
Definitely. Another thing that you can do, if you follow us on Facebook, when we put out the newsletter every month. So the latest newsletter is right here on the front. And when you click that, and it takes you to the latest newsletter that has all kinds of information about, actually, not something that's coming up later this month is on here as well. So there's all kinds of, so there's the conference about Paul and Tyler that you'll see. But as you scroll down to the bottom, every month, we put on here how to contact your senators, where to find your state representative, House members. So even if you don't go to the ARC of the United States, it's on the newsletter every month as well.
Exactly. And it's just a click away. You just hold your cursor on there and click, and that gets you right there.
Yeah. So let's look at what a good
An effective.
and effective.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a better way of saying that. Probably not a. So here is Charlotte Roth actually wrote a fantastic letter, and we appreciate Charlotte letting us do this. And I have blanked out the name of the individual because that's not important.
And we appreciate that, Charlotte, and there are several people involved in People First. Of course, Charlotte's the president, but several people that stay on top of this. And whenever there's an issue important to them or someone they know, they take the time to put letters together.
Yes, she got the assistance from Paulette at the Center for Independent Living. And so that's one of the things that your advisor can help you do. You can call our office. We're very happy to help you. So this, she wrote about low-income housing standards in West Virginia. So I know we've showed this before, but in case you were not at the earlier training, but it has the date, who she wrote it to. She wrote it to several people. So she wrote it to the president at that time. She also wrote it to all the Congress people and the senators. And so my name is, who she was with, why she was writing. Bullet points are good.
And those bullet points are great because it's hard to just go past safety and accessibility and not pay attention to that. So that's a great way to make it stand out.
And unfortunately, in our world, everything has a cost. And so to those areas, I believe 3 areas, and that's good to keep it to 3 points as well.
Yep.
So 3 points. You don't have a whole laundry list. I want to talk about 3 things: safety, accessibility, cost. She's a caregiver, uses a wheelchair, wonderful individual, tells about can't get into the restroom and things like that. Despite an increase in rent, concerned about federal funding used to support landlords. And that issue being with COVID has been a big issue.
Right. And it's being addressed. So
Yes.
people like Charlotte, who used their voice to speak out, helped make that happen.
Exactly. And although COVID has prevented it from happening, although the president couldn't come, Senator Capito had written back and said that she was going to come to Morgantown and actually look at that situation. So that is the way you write a nice, effective letter, and the people will write back.
And some of the other great points about the letter are there's great information shared. It's very specific. There are only 3 bullet points because people won't keep reading if you have too many bullet points. And the actual body of the letter itself was short and to the point, and it got the issue across. If it's 10 pages long, people might not make it to the 10th page, and they might not pay attention to all the details.
No, definitely not. And so I'm going to share now. This is a sample letter that we'll send to everyone that you can use as a model. And so just like on Charlotte's letter, it has the honorable first name and last name. And this is to a state. You can change it to federal, but this actually state capital in Charleston. So you would put the zip code, the reason for the letter, including the topic, the bill number, the author, and the subject. Because if you've got 5,000 bills, or even the 100 or however many passed, if I wrote to you in my letter and I say, well, that bill we were talking about on transportation.
Right. And then the other thing is that legislators have a staff, and different members of their staff specialize in different areas. So that will help the letter more efficiently get to the right person.
Exactly. So because it may have to, many times when you come up with a great idea, it has to be, they send it down to legal because somebody has to say, can we do that?
Right.
Or, hey, there's a bill that already does that. All we need to do is add this extra piece to it. So I have to start from scratch, and then you're just adding on. So then and the other thing about that is not everything that you're writing is that you want to do something.
Right.
You may think that a bill they dreamed up is the most ridiculous thing you ever heard, and you don't want that to happen. So you need to include the topic, the bill number, the author, if you're writing to support it or oppose it, and then the impact.
Right.
So then you've delegates or senators, and my name is, I'm a regional consumer or a family member or whatever you happen to be who resides in your district. Because sometimes I've noticed if you call, like when we've tried and Melissa's tried to invite some of the senators and the House of Delegates members, if you call their number, the first question they're asked, if you go on the website, it'll say, what's your zip code? And if you're not in their district, because they don't want a bunch of outsiders telling them what to do in their district. So they want people they serve. Although that's all going to change next year with redistricting.
Exactly. And we'll talk about that at some point as well.
Yes. So state why you support or oppose the issue. Choose up to 3 of the strongest points. So see, Charlotte followed exactly this without even seeing this. That supports your position, state them clearly, include a personal story.
And that is perhaps the most important. All of these are important, but the personal story is what really makes the difference.
Exactly. Tell your representative why the issue is important to you, how it affects you, your family member, and the whole community. Because while they want to fix that road and fix the pothole or send a bus to your house, it's not practical to do that for one person. But if it would help the entire community, now you're getting somewhere.
Exactly. And then, like you said earlier, Doug, you definitely want to tell your representative how you want them to vote on this issue and ask for a response. Now, so many times when we do things by email, we get an immediate response. Mm-hmm. And I will say that I'm impressed with the legislators in West Virginia that they typically do respond to anything that you send to them, but not everybody does. And so asking for that response is important. And then, of course, you want to be sure to include your contact information on both the letter and the envelope to make it easier for the staff in the office to know how to reach you again.
And as I recall, according to a couple of the senators and House of Delegates members, many of the senior senators have staff because they've been there for a long time and senators have staff. If you're a brand new House of Delegates member, you're in an office sharing it with somebody else and it's just you two. So if you're only there during the 60-day session, so you may write that letter and be like, no one ever wrote me back. Well, when did you write it? Well, in the middle of July. Well, the session's not in and it wasn't interim. Maybe they haven't been to their office to see that mail. Or some of the delegates that I've talked to don't read their mail because it's not, they do things throughout the year, but it's not a full-time job. They don't look at their email every day.
Right. So a couple solutions for that are obviously make sure you have the correct contact information, but consider sending the same letter electronically and by mail. Or if you have difficulty sending things electronically, you can always contact our office. And if you provide the letter, we will definitely take the time. Honestly, it only takes 5 minutes to email.
Oh,
it's
sure.
Very quick.
And so then which again, we'll make this available to you. Here's some tips. So use the proper salutation because you want to be polite and they have obviously earned the trust of enough people to elect them to that office. And whether you personally voted for them or not, this is about business. It's not a personal thing. You may not like their hair color or what they do or how they do whatever. They are in that office and you would like to have their support either for or against this issue. If you're not polite,
you definitely want to be courteous and informative because that's what that office deserves. And if you're not informative, then they really don't know how to help you.
Exactly. And again, if you live in their district, make sure you say that because they want to help their constituents. And so if I call the folks in Beckley and say, I think you need, that's not going to have nearly as the same impact as somebody who lives in Beckley who needs that assistance.
Now, out of our office, we do send letters, mostly emails with the information, and we do advocate, but you're right, we're advocating for a group. And while we can sometimes share specific information, individual stories of how their life is impacted holds much more weight than our advocating on behalf of people. We'll continue to do it, but we need other people to share their story.
Absolutely. And so this is when you're writing a standard letter, then sending an email, same guidelines. Might want to call their office and ask if a letter sent by email is effective, because as we learned from our senators last year, some people love email, prefer email. Some people don't like email. They like that hard copy that they can put in their stack. Here's all the people that think this is a great idea. Here's all the people that don't think it's a great idea. The people that love this idea is much higher. They can, and then phone calls as well. You can't just call up and go, you need to blah, blah, blah. It would be just like my first call to Senator Ford. She doesn't know where I live.
Right. And that's one of the great things about People First is that we have so many self-advocates that recognize the importance of developing that relationship. And so the phone call is also not just about checking up on the letter and the information, but it can also be part of developing that relationship like Shar and Tracy and so many other people have done with their representatives and getting people to really pay attention to what's going on.
And you'll find, there's in any organization, you're always going to find some people who are more enthusiastic than others, but most of the people that I have encountered are very friendly. They ran for the office because they really care and they want to help people. And sometimes they get down there and they feel kind of, they came in with gangbusters. And they're like, I'm going to change the world. And then you realize, oh, this is like walking into a stadium and going, hey, so.
Right, exactly. So we've shared a lot of information. Doug, as always, you've done a great job in putting everything together. And now we'd like to know what questions you have.
Exactly, because although we recorded this so that the presentation, we could show everything, we're going to be right here as soon as this is over. And you can ask questions and we'll have the letters and all that. So then you can ask anything else. So